Hi guys, so a couple of months ago I made a TBR, or let's call it a pool of possibilities, for the cold and spooky season, and I have to say I'm doing uncharacteristically well with it. I'm actually reading books from that list for a change. But Christmas season is about to begin. The Christmas trees are up all over town and the Christmas markets are being constructed, and I'm definitely entering the Christmas and winter holiday mood, so it is high time that I made a TBR for the winter holiday season. Let's call it my Winter Wonderland TBR. So I have compiled a list of books with a wintry setting or a holiday theme that I would like to get to this Christmas season or this midwinter. And most of the books on this list are going to be ebooks, but let's start with an actual physical book. Icefields by Thomas Wharton. This one is set in the Canadian Rocky Mountains, or it starts there at least, where a man has a mountaineering accident, falls into a crevasse, and he escapes with his life, but what he sees while he is down there in the crevasse has a deep impact on him and changes the course of his life, or at least has a strong grip on him for the rest of his life. This may sound like a thriller at first, but it actually isn't. It's rather a quiet and contemplative book, I think. I don't even know what the man sees down there in the crevasse, and I don't want to know. I think it will be more interesting to find that out by myself and for yourself. The next few books are much more light-hearted. To my complete and utter delight, I finally found not one, but two retellings of the Nutcracker that are quite recent releases. The first is the Enchanted Sonata by Heather Dixon Wallwork, and the second is Midnight in Everwood by M.A. Kuzniar. Of the two, I think the Enchanted Sonata is the more grown-up one, or at least I think the protagonist, the Clara character from the Nutcracker, is more grown up than the protagonist in Midnight in Everwood. Midnight in Everwood also has a ballet theme. I don't know if that's also the case in the Enchanted Sonata, but it could be the case that Midnight in Everwood is based on the ballet The Nutcracker, whereas the Enchanted Sonata is more based on the original story by A.T.R. Hoffmann. I don't know if I'm going to read both of them. I'm tending more towards the Enchanted Sonata, if you haven't guessed that already, but I wanted to name them both in case you are interested in hearing about different adaptations of the Nutcracker. Next we have two short novellas that are set in the Scottish Highlands, A Toast to the Old Stones and Ghosts in the Gloaming by Denzel Meyrick. These are two tales from a longer series, a crime series that is set in a fictitious Scottish Highland town called Kinloch. And these are two tales from Kinloch which are kind of special releases for the holidays, not necessarily set at Christmas, but definitely during the winter holidays. I haven't actually read any book in this series, which starts with Whiskey in Small Glasses, book one of this crime series. And I haven't read that one or any other book from the series, but I have read the first of these novellas. It's called A Large Measure of Snow, and it's utterly charming. I'm now in the difficult situation that I didn't keep up with this series of short tales, and now I have two to read, one of which, the first one of which, is actually set in January, and the third one is set in December of the same year. So I will have to read the January one before I can get to the next December one, which might mean that I will put off reading the December one, book 3, until next year, so Christmas 2023. At some point, I will also have to read the actual crime books from the main series, but for now I'll keep with the shorter tales. But an actual crime novel that I've wanted to read for some time now, maybe actually a couple of years, is The Snowdonia Killings by Simon McCleave. This one is obviously set in northern Wales, but seems to have a bit of a tarte noir feel to it. It's a police procedural. The main character is a detective from London who has relocated from London to northern Wales in the hopes of escaping the swamp that is the big city and find some peace and quiet in rural life. But then she finds that the small town can be every bit as swampy as the big city where violent crime is concerned. And more on the cozy side of crime, we have Murder on the Orient Express by the one and only Agatha Christie, of course. The time has finally come around again to pick up this book, and this year it's going to happen, or this winter rather. It's going to be a long, cold winter here at the foot of the Alps, so there's plenty of time for me to get to this book and no excuses left. Also rather cozy, Hogfather by Terry Pratchett. I got this book in a book swap a couple of weeks ago, and I have to say I'm not the biggest fan of Terry Pratchett. I think if you've read one of his books, you've read them all, and the humor is a bit too clownish for my taste, to be honest. But I got this virtually for free, and it's going to be a nice change of tapestry, so to speak, for me this Christmas season. But the coziest of them all is certainly Wundersmith by Jessica Townsend, the second book in the Morrigan Crow series. I am so behind on this series, and this isn't a particularly Christmassy book, although I think there's going to be a Christmas scene in this one again, like in the first one. But I mean, what could be more festive and more magical than this cover? For those of you who don't know, this is a middle grade series about, well, it's a chosen one story with a nice twist, or a kind of, a different kind of chosen one for a change. It's also kind of a boarding school series, but not quite. It's snarkier than Harry Potter, which I appreciate very much. And it's altogether just the cutest, most magical, coziest thing that you could wish for on a holiday weekend. And then I have a bunch of romance novels and novellas mostly, lined up for the long, dark winter nights. 3 of them are actually by the same author, who is one of my favorite romance authors and definitely my romance author of the year 2022. It's Risa Cooper, I think is her name. She writes contemporary as well as paranormal romances, and paranormal romances or urban fantasy romances are normally completely not my thing, which is, however, mostly due to the lack of talent of the authors who are writing this kind of story. But Risa Cooper is an exception, and she has, among others, a series called Familiar Spirits about witches, male witches in American small towns. And these are just so magical and low-key, and most of all, so nicely angsty. I love me an angsty romance. And she is going to publish a 4th book in the series in the next days or weeks, which I'm looking forward to very much. But I also have 2 more books of hers on my list. One is called Casper Gets His Wish, and it's just a cute, funny holiday story about an elf who is unhappy with working conditions, the corporate spirit, I guess, at the North Pole, and takes himself off, I think. And the second one is called The Winter Prince and is a short epic fantasy tale, if this is not an oxymoron, about a prince who has had his heart taken out at his own request by a sorceress, and this has caused some difficulty, and he is now even dying from a lack of heart. So he is traveling with his most trusted courtier to get it back from the sorceress who lives in the northern mountains. And then we have Whiteout by Elyse Springer, which is an amnesia story, which is apparently an extremely common trope, but I have somehow never come across a book with this trope before, so this is going to be my first amnesia romance. And then we also have Winter Masquerade by Kevin Klehr, which isn't a romance so much as a story about love. It is set on an enchanted cruise ship, which may be a dream ship. It's probably about a guy who goes on a cruise and then has a dream while he is on it about the ship being enchanted, but I'm not sure. In any case, he learns quite a bit about his life and his love life while being on this enchanted ship and finding his way through it. And then we have Yuletide Treasure by Eliot Grayson, which is a retelling of A Christmas Carol, but apparently a pagan retelling, judging by the title. And finally, a novella called Ethan and Jack Destroy the World, in which a hapless postgraduate student of ancient languages accidentally summons a demon and binds him to himself. And then he has to take him with him everywhere he goes. Like, for instance, his ex-fiance's birthday party. So it's kind of a fake dating story with a twist. And I think this one is set during the winter holidays. I don't know exactly which ones. It might even be Valentine's Day. I've actually started reading this one, so I think I'm going to find out soon. And that is it for books on my Winter Wonderland TBR list. I actually meant to follow this up with a short coda of holiday romance recommendations, but now the light is fading fast, so I think that will be a project for another day. It will have to be soon though, because the holiday season always passes so quickly, doesn't it? Blink and you'll miss it. So watch this space for my big little holiday romance recommendation video, and I'll see you very soon, guys. Bye!